This one's sort of a standard terminology mind map, but with a twist. I want more focus on remembering terms and no worries about whether you can form a complete definition for them yet. All right, let's jump in and do the mind map. So we've got three major steps. Here at phase one, you just start with this seed term, IPv6 address, and make a list of every term that comes to mind. So just start writing terms. And if you think of an idea and you don't think of a term, just as short a description as you can describe it with, write that down. Just kind of a tickler phrase. All right, go ahead and hit pause on the video and take up to 2 minutes to do that. Now I want you to turn that list into a mapping of relationships of how your brain organizes those terms. All right, so take your seed term and put it in the middle of a blank piece of paper or in the middle of a mind map app's workspace. Then think about all those terms, and if there's, say, three that go together, write those together, connect those up to the seed term. Three other terms, write those somewhere else, separately, but together with each other, connect those to the seed term. If you've got some terms that don't seem to go with others, just separate them out. Basically, you're making a map of how your brain is organizing these terms right now. It doesn't have to be perfect. It's just where you are and tells your brain, think about this. Take a few moments to hit pause and go off and spend 2 minutes with this part of the task. As an optional phase 3, take 2 minutes and update your mind map based on this list of terms. Now, this is as comprehensive as I can make a list based on the content in Volume 1, Chapter 25, Section 1, the matching videos. I may not have said all these terms out loud. All right, so there may be a few here and you say, hey, I don't even remember him saying that. Well, I might not have. All right, but if you see some here and you say, you know, I think I've heard that term, let me integrate it into my mind map, go for it. Now's the time. I'll give you a few seconds to hit pause so you can go do it. So here's the mind map I created. You don't have to have a mind map that looks just like mine. This is just one way to organize things. It's the exercise of you organizing what you remember that's important. The end product is not the important part. I know you've heard me say that a million times by now, but truly, that's the way it is. All right. So IPv6 address is your seed term. So the address classes for IPv4, we did talk about those. Talked about classes A through E. So of course, it's always good to review those because it's kind of a setup for how things work here with IPv6. I'm going to start in the upper right and go clockwise around, by the way. We also talked about, in general, address types in terms of their function being unicast and multicast addresses. Multicast can be used for some overhead protocols, both for IP version 4 and IP version 6. They can be used by applications. So an application can send one packet that the routers replicate so that many can receive a copy of that one packet. But most of our focus in talking about IP version 6 addresses will be on those unicast addresses. All right, the assignment process. How do you get public, unique IPv6 addresses? Well, we talked about the idea of a public address prefix or public address block and use those terms interchangeably as synonyms. And then we talked about the organizations, same ones for both IP version 4 and IP version 6, IANA, then the 5 regional registries who work with commercial organizations, internet service providers, all of whom play a role in assigning address blocks to companies. Then we talked about some protocols like routing protocols. So just for the routing of packets more generically, we've got the routing table, we've got the default router concept, we've got the process in routing of de-encapsulating packets from their frames, re-encapsulating the packets inside the frames. And we talked about how in IP version 4, we tended to use the term subnet ID. In IP version 6, we can use that same term, but the formal term is prefix ID if you prefer to use that, but use them interchangeably. Then with routing protocols, we talked about the names and the history of the names to support IP version 6, like OSPF v3 being created to support IP version 6, a new version of EIGRP created internally by Cisco to support IP version 6, multi-protocol BGP to support this new layer 3 protocol, IP version 6, and good old RIP Next Generation that was created for IPv6. And then finally, we mentioned a few overhead protocols, namely ICMP v6 and the Neighbor Discovery Protocol. Hope you enjoyed putting that mind map together. It's all about the exercise. You can do these at any time for any topic. Hey, if you're new to the channel, please subscribe and click the bell, of course. And if you're old to the channel, give me a like, a share, a comment. Always love to engage. Hey, thanks for hanging out. Talk to you soon.